Hello everyone and welcome back to Brickcats. Today I am reviewing 2Bricks' Mandalorian N-1 Starfighter. As always, please consider leaving a like, subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, or supporting what I do in any other way you see fit. I greatly appreciate it. I also appreciate everyone's feedback on the U-Wing video, and hopefully in this one I've adjusted the sound settings enough so that the music isn't too distracting, but still provides some kind of background noise to make my droning voice a little less boring. And I'm also on yet another new microphone. My previous new one, it had an inline controller and it broke, so they're sending me a replacement, and I got another one in the meantime. Anyway, back to the model. 2Bricks released the Mandalorian version of the N1 at the same time as his Naboo N1, which I reviewed a few months ago, so check that out if you haven't already. Din Djarin's N1 gets a significant visual overhaul from the classic yellow version, which I have right here, with a number of special modifications courtesy of Pelimato and the Mandalorian himself. Instructions for this model are available for $10 on Rebrickable, and without any modifications to the parts list, Bricklink was giving me 4 stores and $62 before shipping and tax, or about $86 including shipping and tax. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in the conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume that you have bought the instructions or are interested in buying them, and I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks in all of my builds, and I always purchase the instructions for myself. I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and/or less expensive. The Mandalorian N1 measures 14 inches long, 8 inches wide, and sits 3 inches tall without the stand, and about 5.5 inches on the included stand. And that's about 35.5 centimeters by 20.3 centimeters by 7.6 centimeters by itself, or 14 centimeters tall on the stand. This is quite close to minifigure scale, much like 2Bricks' Naboo N1, Starting at the nose, I really like the detailing of the cannons, as well as this use of this wedge piece on the underside, which makes the transition from the fuselage up to the nose very smooth. You can see from the end-on view that there is just a slightest angle in the wings, and this is a feature that a lot of mocks don't even try to include, so getting that angle is definitely worth the extra effort in my opinion, and I'm glad 2Bricks included it. The wings themselves make, well, the primary piece in the wings, you can't really see it, you can just see the edge of the newer 6x4 wedge in dark bluish gray, and that represents the section you can see in the screen version, while the ice skates on the underside represent the little tooth-like structures that you can also see. The two engines are asymmetric, and they have the same basic construction. I really love this arrow piece inside of the engine intake. It's the perfect shape for the intake. There's a round brick inset backwards into a wheel piece here, and this arrow piece, while it's not strictly canon accurate, it's the only way that you can reasonably make this connection, and it just looks cool. There's not really a way to go nicely from the 2x2 dimension here on the front to the 3x3 with the existing piece inventory, so it is a little bit blocky in the area just behind the intake where there should be like a transition area, but it's well done here. The dark red and the gold highlights kind of contrast nicely with the light bluish gray, even if the shaping is a little bit off. And there's nice engine greebling on both sides, and like I said, it is slightly different to make things a little bit interesting. On the underside of the engines, I'm not quite sold on these kind of long assemblies. Sorry, I'm gonna turn this over over and over again. Looking at it from the end-on view, this one is okay, the outer one on both sides, but you can see that this inside one is kind of offset at an odd angle, and that's just a product of the connection used to connect these Technic pieces here. In canon, I think they should really be on the same level, and they should be in as close as possible to the engine cylinder shape. Doesn't look terrible by any means, I just found that to be a little bit odd. Also, I think I would have preferred the bionicle eyepiece on the end here to make this kind of a it's almost like a torpedo shape, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what these structures are, but the toe ball piece kind of creates an odd texture towards the end here that I think should be just smoother. The rear third of the engine, if you will, uses the new 3x3 round brick, and there's a trans-light blue 2x2 for some engine glow before using the standard cone and bar to create the again, I'm not really sure what this is or what it's called, but the sweeping shape as you move back towards the rear of the engine. The main fuselage looks very good. I really love the inclusion of this darker band right across the front of the cockpit, as well as the headlight bricks to create some of the event sections that you can see if you look at if you watch the show, or if you look at any of the pictures you can find on the internet. And my favorite clever part use in this model is this projectile launcher brick that 2Bricks uses right here to get this streak of dark bluish gray that's about a half or 2/3 of a brick wide. It's just a nice little detail that you really can't get if you're using the standard plates or bricks there. The sides of the fuselage marry up very nicely to the cockpit with these 4x2 wedges, and the cockpit itself easily fits the pilot, of which of course there's only going to be one, and he sits in the new panel piece here. There are some controls in there. It's kind of a little bit tough to see with my lighting here, but it does have the Canon accurate 3 standard scope, as well as the additional red one on top there. Just behind the pilot, of course, is the passenger compartment for Grogu, and he fits inside his little bubble pretty nicely. I really don't have any issues using the 2x2 dome here, which of course allows Grogu to sit there, and I think that any model, I came to the conclusion that any model of the Naboo N-1 that doesn't fit the Grogu minifigure probably, well, I just prefer that the minifigure be able to sit in there, even if the cockpit is probably 50% too large to be proportionally accurate to the cockpit here. The underside engine, I call it the afterburner even though that's not exactly what it is, but the underside engine here is included with some 2x2 round bricks and plates, and while this inverted 2x2 slope right here isn't necessarily Canon accurate as far as I can tell, and it does break out the outline of the underside of the hull a little bit. I believe this was included so the fighter rests nicely on a flat surface without wobbling too much. You can see that, I'll get to this more, but no matter where I push on, it's not rocking back and forth, so I think that without that inverted slope, it would be a little less stable. So I think that's a really good conclusion. And the tail is a combination of the curved slopes, while there are some bar and round plates to create the uncovered section before the spear piece creates the tip of the tail. There is also some nice use of the black wedge you can see right there to recreate some of the fighter's on-screen details. And overall, I just really like the kind of small things that 2Bricks included. You can see that the fuselage is not symmetric. Got some dark tan highlights there, the gold, the standard tan. It's just very well done. Overall, there's a lot of detail packed in, and I think this is probably the best representation of the Mandalorian N-1 that I'm aware of. The Mandalorian N-1 uses 187 elements and just 483 pieces. The wedge 4x4 triple inverted with connections between two studs, part 4855. It's right here underneath the passenger compartment, and this is very expensive in light bluish gray. If you change the color to the older light gray, it will be much cheaper, and you can kind of tell if you look real closely. Also, I have the light directly on this, so you can see that this is indeed the old lighter gray, which is kind of a more greenish hue, while light bluish gray tends more towards blue. But in my opinion, when you're playing with this, or even if you have it on the shelf on the stand, you're not really going to see this. You could also make an argument that an off-color piece here or there just kind of adds to the character, the used nature of the Mandalorian N-1. So in my experience, not only was this part, I think this part was like 10 cents or something, while the light bluish gray version was like over $1. It also had the effect, when I was running the algorithm, of reducing the Bricklink store count by 1, which probably saves you $5 in shipping as well. The only other part that I found was a bit expensive was the wedge 3x4 by 2/3 triple curved, and that's the one right at the front here, part 93604. And this piece usually runs between $1 and $1.25, but there really isn't a good substitute here. This element is available from Pick-a-Brick Standard at the time I'm recording this on June 30th, 2022 for 25 cents. So if you're ordering any of these Star Wars summer sets and otherwise qualify for free shipping, perhaps this is a good option for you. And as always, leaning heavily on Pick-a-Brick is likely going to save you on the overall cost if you have the patience to put each part number into Pick-a-Brick. I will say that Pick-a-Brick has absolutely been killing it lately with shipping. I've had bestseller orders reach my door in less than a week after placing the order. And I've had 2 Pick-a-Brick Standard orders that I placed since mid-May, and they were both big orders. And if you didn't know, Pick-a-Brick orders are all pulled by hand. And both of those Pick-a-Brick Standard orders shipping from Europe arrived at my door in under 2 weeks. So whatever downside of the change they made with Pick-a-Brick, reducing the selection of brand new elements, for those of us using older elements, I think this is a net gain. And yeah, Pick-a-Brick's been doing really well lately. So not too many part recommendations, but I think those two will probably save you at least a little bit. And the important one is really the wedge piece there. Instructions for the Mandalorian N-1 consist of 336 steps, which includes the stand. And this build took me about an hour and a half without any pre-sorting of the pieces, and honestly there's so few pieces that you really don't need to. Each part or subassembly you add in a given step are highlighted in red, and I had no issues following it at all. This is a very solid model in general, and sturdiness is one thing that always impresses me with 2Bricks' models. Like I said earlier, it sits on a flat surface very well. There's no wobble or anything that would make this very unstable or give you a reason that you couldn't do that. And it rests on these assemblies here, and then that 2x2 inverted curved slope here. Swooshing this model is no problem, although the shape of the fighter, like the Naboo N-1, makes it a little awkward to hold, and you have the addition of the 2x2 dome here. So the grip is something like this. You have to be a little careful with the underside engine. It's only studded into a bracket, which are hollow studs and therefore a little weaker, but it's also not too big of a deal. The fighter is stable enough to be held from pretty much anywhere. Since I knock a piece off here, you can hold it by the engines. I can't rotate this all the way or else the wing will pop off, but that's kind of to be expected. Even the side assemblies here are very strong, and there's really just no No major structural weakness in this thing. You can hold it by the tail just fine, kind of wobble it up and down. It's a little unstable doing that, but you can do it if you really have to. Yeah, overall, this is just very stable, and it holds up to my 5-year-old, so I guess that's really the ultimate test. One part, or one group of parts that comes off a little bit more often than I'd like, but again, it's kind of obvious. These ice skate pieces are pretty delicate. I mean, not delicate, but they're loose. The starboard engine on mine is a little jiggly. As you can see, I can kind of rotate this one, but I cannot do the same on the port engine. And I believe this is just because there's no, you can see this tile here. There's not the equivalent up here. So there's nothing that really joined. This is all joined with a Technic axle in the middle here. So this is just free to rotate in the small tolerance that it's got there. So it's not a structural issue. It's just if you're swishing it around, you might hear some jiggling. It might be that. But I've probably said it a couple times by now, but I don't have any major concerns with the overall stability of this model. And 2Bricks very well done in this area as usual. I will also mention the stand. The stand uses a Technic pin with axle, and you put it right here. This presents a little bit of an issue sometimes if you're trying to take it off. So first, I mean, it's very stable on the stand, first of all. It kind of bobs up and down, but you can't rotate it, and it's not going to tip over or anything. But most of the time when I try and take this off, the pin comes out and sticks in the fighter, which again is not a big deal. Technic axle pins are kind of annoying to remove, but just be aware of that. When you take the fighter off the stand, the pin is likely to come with it. The Mandalorian N-1 was instantly popular with the Star Wars community, and specifically the LEGO Star Wars fan community. I saw dozens of N-1 mocks immediately after that episode. There were also a ton of complaints about spoilers, which was kind of funny to me. In my opinion, this one is, like I said, by far the best in terms of accurate scale and certain features of the N-1. I consider it essential for accuracy, like the angle wing. Paired with its overall stability and the reasonable cost, it's very easy for me to give this model one of my highest recommendations, and I will just hold up, if I can find it, the official LEGO version, which is huge, and it's going to be hard for me to get this in the same shot, but so here is the official version, which I don't even know what this thing is. You can kind of get an idea of the design compromises that LEGO made versus someone who managed to do this for basically the same cost, albeit without minifigures, but it looks orders of magnitude better in pretty much every way. Anyway, enough about that. This one does have pretty cool minifigures, I'll give it that. Like I stated in the introduction, the cost without any modifications to the parts list, Bricklink was giving me 4 stores and $62 before shipping and tax, or about $86 including shipping and tax. When I substituted the light gray for light bluish gray, the 4855 wedge piece, this brought the total down to 3 stores and $52 before shipping and tax, so about $70 including shipping and tax. And you could likely save even more with direct orders from LEGO, especially the more expensive elements, like the 93604 wedge in light bluish gray, these newer 6x4 wedges in dark bluish gray, and the 3x3 round bricks used for the engines. There will be a link in the description to the Rebrickable page where you can buy the instructions if you so choose. And if you want to watch 2Bricks' video review on his channel, I will leave a link to that as well. Thanks as always for watching my review of 2Bricks' Mandalorian N-1. If you've built the model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please let me know in the comments. I'm especially interested to hear your thoughts on version 1. Sorry, the official version if you have it, and how you think it compares to 2Bricks'. Remember to leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't already, and I hope to see you back next time.